On September 17, 2020, the world got its first glimpse into the next mainline installment of Final Fantasy, and on the 22nd of June 2023, Final Fantasy XVI was released for the PS5. I've been a massive Final Fantasy fan ever since playing 10 on my PS2 after being curious as to who all these characters were from Kingdom Hearts 1, and now after having played most of them to some degree, I was extra excited for the release of Final Fantasy XVI. However, I didn't want to get a PS5, so I had to pretend it didn't exist and thus hope to the Kings of Lucis that it would come to PC. And oh boy were those prayers answered, and now after having played through the demo twice and horribly mismanaging the time for this video to release, it's already a certified banger. Now before I talk about anything else, I just want to say how cinematic everything felt, from the pacing of every single scene to the animations and the voice acting, and especially the camera angles. As soon as I saw the moon, I was just completely enthralled by what this game had to offer, and how we begin on these explosive starts, having absolutely no idea what's going on, just left me with a sense of awe, and just this is awesome. Everything feels large, grand, and epic in scale, and the entire time I was playing the demo, that feeling never left me. This entire time I was engaged and I was locked in, looking up to see these two massive titans fight and just be an onlooker over a massive war, to be intrigued by the political and perhaps dubious nature of many characters. All of it combined in such a way that just made me desperate to see what this world had to offer, and I was just in for it. Now, expanding on what I've said prior, I'll be covering most of the events that happened in the demo and basically how I felt about it all. So again, we begin with Phoenix and Ifrit just going off at each other for some unexplained reason, as of now, before we move into not the Final Fantasy 15 boys sitting around a campfire, to where they're all like, Cloud, Leon, Wyvern, we have a mission to do, before we take a good look at the war that's going on. Then we get some exposition about the politics, and which was charged for many reasons, blah 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 blah, before things slightly get out of hand. Psych! Was it all a dream? Or was it? What I know. Either way, we get introduced to Baby Clive, Baby Jill, and Baby Joshua, both of whom are here to witness Clive get knocked flat, after which Joshua gets in a bit of trouble as we soon come across the absolute best character in the game, no question about it, Torgal. Then we get a little peek into how society runs after Clive decides to be a decent human being, and we get someone with the same tattoo that the older, grumpier Clive had earlier. Then we're sent off by our father after a pretty touching scene between Clive and Jill, along with Character Preset 1 and Preset 3, to do the mandatory every fantasy game ever quest ever of all time, that is, kill some goblins. Then we get another touching scene with Joshua and Clive, but oh no, we're actually under attack and they want to kill Joshua. But what will happen next? But for now, I won't tell you that, because the demo ends a bit after that, and gosh damn, that entire segment was fire. Just like the icons. What? That was a bad joke. I really better cut this one out. So now I want to discuss the characters, and for this segment I'll only really be focusing on Clive and Joshua, as so far the plot is heavily focused around them, and they appear, of course, to be integral to the fate of Valencia. I did not say that right. Doesn't matter. Let's keep going. So, Clive. He's the protagonist of this Andrew and the person you'll be playing. And Clive Rosfield, voiced by Ben Starr, is the eldest son of the Archduke of Rosaria and Joshua's half-brother. He has a very strong will and a deep care for others, but that does not let how others perceive him shape his own desire and wants. We can see from their interactions that despite the fact that Joshua has been granted the power of the Phoenix, which is very, very highly regarded, something that you think that the elders would normally be given, he harbours no ill will and does genuinely love him as both the protector he is meant to be and his brother. I'm actually very interested to know as to how Clive turns from this younger to older self, especially why he has this ability to control the Icon powers, and why he would be considered the protagonist over someone like Joshua, who you would think, given the powers, would have that role. Speaking of Joshua, actually, again, he's the second son of the Duke of Rosaria, and was granted the super duper awesome special power of the Phoenix, something that we see he loathes and believes that Clive's actually much more worthy of this role than he is. Josh, just like Clive, is very good-hearted and treats everyone with the respect and warmth, and I'm once again very interested to see what exactly happens to him that drove Clive down the path he goes on. And what happens at the end of that demo, you will be hooked too, trust me. So, there are a lot more characters in the story so far, but I don't believe I've gained enough info to really understand or have much thoughts about them. For example, we have Jill, who looks to be set up to be absolutely integral to the story. However, a lot of that development does look like it'll happen much further down the track, but I do have a feeling that she's actually going to be one of the best characters in the game, hands down. The rest of the cast, just everyone else, are also fun too, each with their own motives that do make them somewhat memorable for the time I spent playing. Most especially, possibly the antagonists. This is including the twist that happens towards the end of the demo where we get the first taste of the villains of this game. Now I want to move on to the gameplay. So in the demo there are 4 main segments of gameplay. They are the base offensive, base defensive, iconic abilities, and this thing called the stagger meter. So, as you may have seen, the Clive gets access to a sword and is thus able to string together a series of attacks in both the ground and the air. These are basically his bread and butter combo and the entire combo system that you'll work around. To add on to this, Clive can also use magic, and in this case we see him use fire. We can use things like a fire burst to incorporate it into his combos for much more damage, and especially flare. That was another bad joke, I'm so sorry. Anyway, onto the defensive moves. We have 2 main ways that you can avoid getting yourself knocked 6 feet under, and that is through dodging and parrying. Of course, dodging is, as the name suggests, when you're going to be hit and you don't want to be hit, you move out of the way of the attack so you can hit them back. And if you're a god gamer and can just dodge the attack before it connects and create a perfect dodge, you can dish out an even greater amount of damage. Next up we have the iconic abilities. So these are the super duper special moves that Clive's able to perform that seem to be tied to the icons. I don't know how, but in the demo we have access to one move from Phoenix, and as far as I'm aware, yeah, it's not really explained how or why, but that's why we play the game, to find these things out. You're able to mix these abilities as well as the base offensive and defensive moves in order to create cooler, longer, and better combos that do much, much more damage, thus giving us the big numbers. Now onto stagger. So speaking of the big damage numbers, we have this thing called a stagger system, and this is a meter that fills up as you use your offensive abilities that ultimately puts the enemy in a vulnerable state for a period of time. And this is the time where you can use everything in your arsenal to deal out the big mega ultra uber damage numbers. Overall, they're just my impressions of Final Fantasy XVI so far. I'm absolutely floored and majorly impressed by what I've seen, what I've played through, and I eagerly implore you to download the demo at the very least and go on and play it. It is fantastic. I personally am eager to continue my own journey and discover more about the story, its characters, and just what awaits me and you in Valencia. Thank you. If you enjoyed anything of what you saw, make sure to like, comment, and sub, and I'll absolutely appreciate that no matter what it is. And as always, thank you all for watching. I hope you have fun with the rest of the day, and look after yourself. See ya.